We were dead wrong expecting Musk and team to step up like adults in the room and give a strategic and financial overview. Instead, we got a high-level Tesla long-term view with another train wreck of a conference call. Dan Ives, not holding back, he joins us around the table. Dan, good morning to you.
No, great to be here.
You sound disappointed.
Look, I mean, this was an important call where Musk and the rest of the team needed to step up, adults in the room, give some guidance in terms of what's happening on pricing, the margin pressure strategically. And yeah, I'd say train wreck would probably be soft because this was one where the long-term story is intact, but in the near term, they needed to navigate, communicate. They didn't do that. You'll see a lot of pressure on the stock.
A dreadful assessment. Stock is lower by something like 7% in the pre-market. Have you changed your call on the name?
Look, I mean, we're still bullish, but no, from a fair value perspective, I mean, 350 goes toward probably lower threes, 3 to 315. From a base perspective, because numbers are going to come down. And the biggest issue here is that you didn't give goalposts. Because by not giving goalposts now, the Bears are going to run with it. And look, the Bears won last night. The long-term story is intact in terms of FSD, in terms of if you're a believer in EV, which we are, $1 trillion market cap, I do believe is on the horizon the next few years. But in the near term, I mean, this is one where it's a glass half empty relative to how they talked about it. I mean, this was sort of a 101, not how to do a conference call.
I want to understand what the threshold is for you to say sell. Because we have Elon Musk, who just said, as you said, a train wreck of a conference call, was not the adult in the room. He wants 25% of Tesla, or else he's going to walk and go develop some sort of robotics company. If he gets 25% of Tesla's shares, do you say sell?
Look, I think, first of all, I view that as sort of impossible here. There's not going to be a dual-class situation from a share perspective. Plus, he did sell. He had 22% ownership before buying Twitter. So part of that, in terms of the board will have some sort of comp package. Right now, it's caught in a legal issue in terms of Delaware. But I think if he gets more voting control, that's something that's going to ruffle feathers. But also the problem here is that the plane's crashing in the near term, and you're talking about salted or unsalted pretzels. And that's the biggest problem relative to what's happening in Tesla, is that investors want to have some guidance. Give me some financial parameters, and you didn't get it. And look, and obviously we're huge firm believers, and that's the frustration.
Well, okay, as a firm believer then, what does it do to you that Elon Musk came out and basically said, I don't care if this company makes money. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'm not looking for additional economics, read more money. I just want to be an effective steward of very powerful technology. Does that bother you?
Look, I think in some ways the autonomous is going to be super powerful. And I think even what we saw with OpenAI and Altman, I mean, there's definitely a lot of unintended consequences here. I do believe in Dojo, Optimus. I could argue the value going forward from AI is much more than the EV and the actual value today of Tesla. But for Musk right now to kind of exert that, it's agita, it's Harper. It's the last thing as a bull you want to hear, and it does sort of put gasoline on the fire a little, and that's not what you wanted to hear last night. And it goes back to you needed an adult in the room last night, and instead it felt more preschool type conference call.
Isn't this the cost, though, of doing business and investing in a company with someone like Elon Musk at the helm?
Yes and no. I mean, for investors like that, we've seen it for a decade, right? And you understand you take the good with the bad. But now, at this point, this was a huge period to sort of walk investors through, give some goalposts. Zach, CFO, with him gone, definitely feels a different type of conference call that we're seeing. And as long-term believers in the story, we remain that in terms on the other side. But in the near term, the Bears won, and it's hard to defend. And that's why you're going to see pressure on the stock today, with 2024 being a trough year in terms of margins.
As a long-term believer of Tesla, Elon Musk also said last night that China will pretty much demolish most other car companies in the world. How are you looking at the space overall? He's basically setting Tesla up to be taken over.
Well, I think it's really Tesla and the Chinese EV players, because the price war that's happening, it's a Game of Thrones price war that's happening in Beijing. You're seeing it. I think that was the right strategic move in 2023. 2024, you can't continue to go down that path. At one point, you got to hold serve. And as much as we talk about FSD and everything else, for now, it's about, do you continue to cut prices. We thought 95% were done. We were dead wrong going into that conference call. That was a wrong call. Now it's defending, as a bull in terms of the long-term story.
I'm just